They thought the German Shepherd had turned on their son. Every instinct they had told them so. They were wrong about everything. The sound of a toddler hitting the floor is unmistakable. A dull, heavy thud that moves through the floorboards before the silence comes. And then the scream. Marin Calloway heard it from the kitchen, and was already running before the cry finished forming. Jasper was 22 months old, sitting in the middle of the living room rug, face red, mouth open, one hand pressed flat against the hardwood where he'd slid off the playmat. Not hurt. Frustrated. The kind of crying that comes from the bottom of something breathless and total. Marin picked him up. He cried harder. She walked him in circles the way she had 1,000 times. The crying didn't slow. And then Sargent moved. The German Shepherd had been lying near the bookcase. He'd been in this house since before Jasper existed. 4 years old. 87 pounds. A retired protection dog her husband Brendan had adopted from a trainer upstate. Obedient. Quiet. The kind of dog people felt safe around. He had never once approached Jasper during a meltdown. That was the arrangement. That was what they knew. He crossed the room in 6 strides and lowered his face directly to Jasper's face. His muzzle pressed toward the boy's open mouth. His nostrils worked. Slow and deliberate. 2 full seconds of focused inhaling, while Jasper screamed louder. Marin stepped back. Sargent followed, staying nose to face with the crying child. She pulled him by the collar. He turned and sat, perfectly obedient, then immediately rose and returned to the same position, nose to the boy's mouth. Inhaling. Marin was a licensed practical nurse. 12 years. She had seen dogs do things like this before, and she knew what the literature said. Resource guarding, predatory drift, overstimulation response around a distressed infant. She knew the terminology. She knew the cases it described. She called Brendan in from the garage. He stood in the doorway for 30 seconds watching Sargent press his face toward their crying son, and said what they were both already thinking. Get him out of here. They put Sargent in the laundry room. He didn't bark. He scratched at the door with a rhythm that didn't break for the next 40 minutes. Marin's mother, visiting from 2 towns over, said it from the hallway without being asked. You're right to separate them. That dog is fixating 3 people in 1 house. 1 conclusion. That kind of agreement felt like proof. Jasper calmed within 20 minutes. His temperature was normal. He ate half a bowl of cut strawberries and fell asleep on the couch against Marin's shoulder. She put him down in his room. She told Brendan they needed to talk about Sargent. Brendan said he'd call the trainer in the morning. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. At 2:04 in the morning, the laundry room door came off its lower hinge. Not dramatically. The frame held, but the impact was enough. Sargent's full body thrown against hollow core wood. That the bottom seal gave, and the door swung inward. Brendan heard it from the bedroom. He found Sargent in the hallway, not moving toward them, moving toward Jasper's room. He was there before Brendan could say his name. Both paws on the crib rail, muzzle pressed through the slats, against Jasper's cheek. Brendan reached the doorway and stopped. Jasper wasn't crying. He wasn't moving. He was on his back with his arms at his sides in the stillness. That doesn't look like sleep. His lips had a pallor at the margins that Marin recognized from 12 years of nursing before she had finished crossing the room. She reached into the crib. His skin was wrong temperature. She picked him up. The limpness told her everything. She told Brendan to call 911, and she said it in the flat, fast voice she used at work, when there was no time for anything else. The paramedic who assessed Jasper in the driveway. A man named Dario Veth. 6 years in emergency response. Spoke to his partner in a shorthand Marin understood. Jasper's blood glucose was 34 milligrams per deciliter. The floor for a toddler is 70. At 34, the brain is running on borrowed time. At 34, the window between intervention and irreversible consequence is not measured in hours. Dr. Senna Okafor, pediatric endocrinology, told them in the morning what had been happening in Jasper's body for months, without anyone knowing. A rare, congenital disorder causing episodic glucose dysregulation. The meltdowns. The crying that came from the bottom of something breathless and total. Those were the symptom. His body was dropping. His brain was the first thing to register it. His only way to communicate it was sound. She looked at Maren directly when she said the next part. When blood sugar drops in a child this young, the body releases isoprene and other volatile compounds through exhaled breath. Dogs register those compounds at concentrations thousands of times below anything a human can detect. At concentrations that appear on the breath. 20 to 30 minutes before a clinical glucometer catches the shift. She said, "Whatever woke you up last night saved his life. Another 11 minutes at that level and we would be managing catastrophic neurological damage." Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Maren sat with that for a long time. Sergeant, pressing his face toward Jasper's mouth when the boy cried. Not aggression. Breath analysis. Not predatory drift. Medical surveillance. The scratch at the laundry room door. That steady rhythmic scraping. Not anxiety. The sound of an alarm that couldn't turn itself off. The hinge giving way at 2:04 in the morning. Not a dog that had become dangerous. A dog that had run out of ways to ask permission. He had been reading a number she couldn't see for months. Every time she corrected him, every time she pulled him away, every time they called it fixation, he sat down and waited. And went back to the only job he knew how to do. And when the door was the last thing between him and the child whose breath smelled like emergency, he made a different calculation. Jasper came home on a Thursday. He wears a continuous glucose monitor on his right arm now. Small, oval, checks his levels every 5 minutes and sends an alert to both their phones if the number drops. The technology is accurate. The technology is reliable. The technology has never once been wrong. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Sergeant sleeps at the foot of Jasper's crib. He has done this every night since the boy came home. Some nights the monitor catches a drift, and the phone buzzes on Maren's nightstand and she's up before the second alert. Some nights it doesn't. Either way, when she checks the monitor and checks the boy, Sergeant is already there. Chin on the floor, eyes open, watching the small oval light blink green in the dark. Tomorrow, a dog who wouldn't let a mother leave the house on a morning that started like every other morning, and what the cardiologist found 3 hours later.